Welcome to the Airbnb Blueprint Podcast, your go-to training hub for building your very own Airbnb business. In each episode, we break down the exact blueprint that helped us build a multi-six-figure Airbnb business from scratch, and we'll show you how to do the same. Continue learning with us for free in the Airbnb Blueprint coaching community over on Facebook. Find the link in our show notes below. Commit, believe, succeed. Let's go. So we've got Pooh with us here again today. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Welcome back. Yeah. You cold? It's a chilly one out there today.
It is, yeah.
Right, we're going to keep it real on this episode. And as promised, this is not all about the good. It's also about the bad. And that's what we set out on as a promise when we started the podcast. With all the education, it's about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And in this episode, it's going to get ugly. We're going to talk about some real life stuff, some real life, problems that really go on in this world of serviced accommodation. As we know, or as I hope you know, or if you don't know, you need to come and do some training with us. When we are taking guests on into our properties, when we're running serviced accommodation, we always make sure that they're filling in our terms and conditions, that we're taking their ID verification, and that we're making sure they are who they say they are. And we've got the ID verification of either the lead guest or all of the guests, ideally, that are coming to stay at your property. But remember that the beauty about this business in comparison to buy to let is that this is not their primary residence. They have no legal right. It's just like you going to stay in a hotel. You are a guest of the hotel, a guest of that company. And when your stay ends, you must go. You have no legal right whatsoever to stay in that property. However, as Pooh is about to describe, it doesn't always go that way. And sometimes there are situations where the guests just do not want to leave. And that's what we're going to get into in this episode. Again, something that's never spoken about, never talked about. Nothing's ever gone into detail around this subject because it's sometimes just a little bit too scary to sell the courses, right? So it's kind of brushed under the carpet along with fire regs and other bits of compliance and stuff and business and marketing and lead generation because it's all just a little bit too in-depth. Well, on this podcast, in this training company, we tell it all. So, Pooh, what happened with one of our properties?
So whoever said that, Airbnbs or service accommodations, if you ever had a problem with the guests, just call the police, right?
Yeah, you just call the police.
Just call the police.
They'll just turn up.
They'll turn up
later and kick them out.
Kick them out. Whoever said that haven't got a fucking clue. So I think the thing with us is, we do a lot of buying and selling the deals, buying and selling inquiries. That's where we make a lot of money.
That's coming up in a lot of the episodes. We'll be talking about
we'll talk about that later on. But we do that a lot. And obviously, we have contracts with our clients. Let's say, for example, it could be insurance companies. It could be relocation companies. Directly to people who are staying. But if we're working with our partners, then obviously, the people who are staying should be signing the contract, signing the terms and conditions with the partners as well.
Just to expand on that, sorry, Pooh, just real briefly so that people know at home. So what Pooh's talking about is, whereas a lot of people are just reliant on the OTAs, i.e. Airbnb and Booking.com, what you should be doing, what we do, what our mentees do, is that you must be registered with as many relocation companies, insurance companies, as possible. And with us, with our mentees, well in excess of 100 companies, I would say that we should be registered with, that we are registered with. So this is one of the clients that we were looking.
And the things are like when you work with your, insurance clients or relocation clients, it's all about building the trust, building the relationships and everything. That can turn into more business opportunities. And that's what happened with our case. Now, the issue is so we had people that came to stay, within this partners' properties of ours, where we do a deal with them. But right at the end of the stays, they said, okay, we have informed you, the people who are staying that this is the end date and they're going to have to be leaving. We keep telling them, let's say 2 weeks in advance, we would ask them, would you like to is there any change of circumstances? We got in touch with our client. Do they need to extend the stay? No, that's fine. They confirmed the date that it's going to have to be the final date. These people are going out, and that would be the end. Most of our clients have been fine. People who have stayed at the properties, perfect, no issues. They moved out, no problem. relocate back to their homes. This one particular family was a problem. And we found out a bit later on in the day because we didn't hear back from our partners, property partners. They said, "Yep, is everything okay? Checking out, no problem, no issues." We didn't hear back until that evening. Said, "Hey, what's going on?" The cleaner turned up, and everyone's still there. They're having a blast. And we said, "What was going on? How come they didn't move out? They've been told. They've been, they've been instructed with every information."
So let me just ask you a question on that. The booking request comes in from one of our clients, right?
Yep.
"Hey, Pooh, we've got some clients we need to house. Can you accommodate them?"
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're full across our own portfolio, so we sell that deal on to one of our partners that we work with, and they take the booking, right? We sit back, we take our commission in the middle. Everybody's happy. We're making money for really not doing much, just building relationships. The host is getting a booking, and our clients are getting somewhere to stay. And our other client is happy because we're accommodating their client. Do you know who they were? Do you ask who are the people that we're accommodating? What's their situation? What's their background?
We had some ideas who they were, because these people had some situations. Let's say a fire in their previous accommodations, but obviously we didn't learn all the details.
Was it a council booking?
Oh,
you don't know?
No, it was a private booking from the insurance company.
Yeah.
But the people who have stayed there, they're rented privately as well. But obviously, we didn't have all the background knowledge.
Yeah.
Whether the rent have been kept up to date or was it in arrears or not, we didn't know. Because we didn't go that deep. But the issue was that right at the end, they just simply refused to leave, and the way that they presented to us was almost like he knew the game. He knew what to do, what to say. Like say sometime when people came, to speak to you on the phone, right? And you might say, look, just for the sake of this call is going to be recorded for, for use as well.
Mm.
And he said, yeah, you can do whatever you want. It's fine. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm just going to keep things, let's talk it through in professional ways, in a calm way. You can raise all your legals, everything. You do what you have to do, but I'm not going.
And what was his reason and excuse for not going there? They had nowhere to go.
Sometimes it's really difficult to say. Like, they just wouldn't budge at anything. In this particular case was even more difficult because there were children involved. He's himself, with his wife and a family of the young 4 kids. So that was really difficult for us.
When you say difficult, are you saying difficult from a legal stance or from an emotional, like?
I would say emotional for me. Obviously, I've got kids myself. Just to rock up at the property and kick them out, it's not something that I would do. A lot of people would like say we put a post out to the community, and I've seen some other posts as well, and people said just turn up and rock and kick them out. Like where? Where are they gonna go to? So, and there are certain procedures that you have to comply to in a way. There are certain things that you couldn't even say it out. Let's say, for example, some people said, just call the police, right? What's police going to do for you? I've called the police, and the police said to me, it's a civic matter. We have no rights into this. We don't touch it.
Interesting, because you see that all the time in the groups. Just call the police.
Just call the police.
Just kick them out.
It's civic matters. Unless there is an aggression towards you, unless things escalate to the next part where things could have gone wrong, that's when you can call the police to intervene.
So why did this particular family give you access to the property? Why didn't they just keep the door locked and put the bolt on and say you're not coming in?
But basically, we did turn up eventually to the property. We knocked on the door and we just said, we want to have to, like, you were here illegally. So, we were asking you to leave the property. But before that, we have told them many, many times. We said, look, these are the options. Has anything been done towards finding the alternate accommodations from, with the Health Council? And obviously, when it went to the council, no actions were taken. It's it's almost like the paperwork just got left on the desk, not being looked at. And I asked the person, "Have you contacted the council many times to try to escalate your matters?" The council can't really do anything for me. So he knows how to play the game too, in a way that he was previously in a bedroom property with 6 people, right? And then he was relocated to a very comfortable 3 to 4 bedroom house. Obviously,
he doesn't want to leave.
He doesn't want to leave. Yep.
And I guess people are listening thinking, well, just go back to the insurance company that you got the booking through, but they didn't want to know either.
No, so insurance company are, obviously they are big clients, and most of the time they don't really see it your way. They just said, well, this is what we have agreed, the rest is yours.
That's awful.
It's very typical. So, the insurance just turn up to say, look, we paid up to this date. If they didn't leave, they didn't leave. It's for you to deal with. And if we're working with our partners, and that's why we had to intervene, because it's partly, it's our responsibility to make sure that everything goes well from every end, I would say.
So what was the host, the owner of the property? What were they saying at this time?
Initially,
were they angry or?
Yeah, I'm sure they'd be, they were extremely angry with it.
Angry to you or?
Angry to us, yeah, because we put the people there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there wasn't a lot of things that they could do either. A lot of people would say, just turn up. Maybe you try to do some illegal move, I would say, by cutting off your utilities, make it inhabitable. But, if it's a person by himself, right, I wouldn't hesitate to, like a perfectly capable person, I wouldn't hesitate to go there and say, look, you're going to have to leave. And you're going to have to find some hostels, some things to go for it, because you have put yourself in this situations. It's got nothing to do with us. We can't take everyone's problems, and then try to save the world by ourselves. It's not going to work. They have to be able to help themselves as well. But I think we went above and beyond in this case. I mean, I've called up. So after I called the police, they said, well, why don't you call the citizen advice for guidance in this case, what to do. So I did.
This was all just sitting casually in the front room with you on the phone.
Ever since we knew that they weren't going to move, and that's when I spoke to the council, I spoke to citizen advice, and then citizen advice advised me to call the police.
Oh God! Around and around we go,
going round and round, and then the funny thing is that when people are staying in these circumstances, they are considered trespassers or squatters. But you can't mention those words to them, because as soon as they heard squatters, they have squatter rights. They can claim that, well, I could be squattering in your properties, and until I get a bailiff, I'm not moving. How long is that going to take for you to get a bailiff, right? So the legal way, I would say, is to go to solicitors. This is like the legitimate way.
Because if you just grab them and throw them out the door, then you're breaking the law.
You're breaking the law as well. So the legal, I would say, the legal way is to call solicitors up, explain the whole situations, present them all with all the contract paperwork and everything. Solicitors would draft up, the legal documents and issue it to the court.
That all sounds expensive.
Sound expensive, and it would take a long time. Now, when you get to court, you have to wait for them to summon these people to go to court. Whether they turn up or not is a different thing. And if they decide not to turn up, the court can issue the bailiff for you to repossess the property in that way, which could take months and months.
And the whole time that you're waiting, the host is there saying,
who's covering the money?
Who's paying?
Yep, who's paying? Exactly. So a lot of operators, would in this circumstances, decided to just rock up to the property and just kick them out. But would you do it if you know that there are 4 young children involved? Which is not their fault in a way. It's
a really tough position to be in.
Yeah, and that's why we work really extremely hard with the council to say, look, it's not working this way. You need to accommodate these people ASAP. We need to find alternative accommodations as soon as possible because they are becoming homeless. And nothing happened until that Friday, where we went to the property. We said, you know what, it's not going to work anymore. Nothing's going to change. Every time we call, yeah, no problem. You do whatever you want. I'm staying. So we rock up with the security guard and a locksmith. Apparently the locksmith was so furious about the whole situation. He said, I'm going to fucking do everything I can. So he went back to the back door first and then changed the lock.
So they're inside.
They're inside. Yep. Can you do this legally? Maybe not. So he went to change the lock, and then we knock on the front door. So we have two teams, one in the front and one in the back, just to make sure that everything's okay. And apparently when we rock up to the front door, and ask for the people to come and open up the door, we found out that the person didn't speak any English at all. And then we had to go around with calling other people to say, can you speak this language, to trying to get our message across. Yeah. Such a nightmare. And then she called the husband called back. Things started to escalate, but then it didn't go to the point where we could call the police. So he said, you couldn't get into the property, it's illegal, blah, blah, blah. But we said, well, but you were here illegally to begin with, So who's right? It's such a fine line to be, to threat in that case. But in the end, we got the security to be in front, because I didn't know what's gonna happen. So I'm no heroes. I'm not trying to be somebody and then trying to beat up anybody. I'm not like that.
And so, who was the security? Was it just a private firm that you hired?
It's a private firm that we hire. Yep. So it has to be. I think they call it. It has to be regulated security firm. You can't just go and hire a bouncer to rock up the property.
But this is all sounds like it's adding up. I mean, that's got to be a couple of hundred to hire someone for the day, and then locksmiths and interpreters. It add up
very quickly. Yep.
Oh man.
So so we managed to get to the person, and speak with that, and eventually, we said, look, could we come in just to have a conversation, to have a chat? We're not being aggressive or anything like that. We're not throwing them out. We're not throwing anything out. We just wanted to have a conversation, to sit down and let's try to work it out what we could do. And that's when we managed to get the husband back. He was in the family. He said, you know what? I'm coming back. I'm going upstairs. I was going to go upstairs and just chill. And I said, no, you couldn't. You can't do that because we were here to trying to help. And right in the end, we managed to get a hold of council. We asked them, to bring some belongings outside, which apparently they have packed part of their belongings already, which they knew that they were going to go, but they just didn't know where to go. So they moved the belongings outside, which that was a massive push and help for us, because we knew that once it's gone out, it's not coming back in, So once we moved that bits out, and we said, look, take a photo of yourself, take a photo of you and the belongings, and send to the council straight away to say, I am homeless. I need help. And that afternoon, the council was on them every 15 minutes. The call was nonstop. And this is after one whole week. We're trying to get engaged with them.
So so what was the timeline from start to finish? 1 week?
Yeah, 1 week. Yep. So, I as a duty of you could report for homelessness as well for other people as a duty of care. So you could do that on online portal for specific councils. You can do that, which we did. But the case wasn't taken forward until we asked them to send a photo of themselves that they were just about to be homeless.
So you had one point of contact that you was dealing with at the council?
Yep. But every time you called, they wouldn't pick up the phone.
No.
So it's almost like a dead end all the time. This whole situation was just crazy.
And multiply it by 1,000 when you've got buy-to-let tenants. I had the same thing. A tenant that wasn't paying fell into arrears. went to the council and the council just said, stay put.
Yeah.
You know, the land, as long as you got a place to, because they don't want the problem.
No.
This is the thing. The minute that they're out of your place or my place, then they're the council's problem.
Correct.
And they don't want that problem. I mean, this is an experience that very few people would have gone through that have the experience and the knowledge around the realities of what it really takes to get somebody out.
Yep.
And there is, it's really promoted around service accommodation, this idea that, you know, you're avoiding the risks of getting squatters and tenants because they're not signing a contract and all of this kind of stuff. But really it's yes, it's safer than buy to lets, but it's still not foolproof.
You know, we had another case that happened this year as well, but we politely asked them to vacate, you know, to leave the property, and they did. So it wasn't a problem until somebody who knew the game inside and decided to play that game.
Well, there's multiple factors here, right? You've got somebody who knows the game.
Yeah.
Then you throw into the fact that they've got 4 kids and they've got nowhere else to go. They don't own anything.
Yep.
It's really the perfect storm.
So like coming back towards that afternoon, you know, he had to go out to pick up his kids. We knew that if the kids were back home, game over. Like, you know, there's no chance of getting them out. But at the same time, we can't kick them out, you know, because of the kids. But thankfully, right at the end, the council managed to find emergency properties that's going to be for them for a longer term. And yeah, 8:30, they moved out.
Do you think maybe they went to another Airbnb?
It's not an Airbnb, so it's more like a council house.
Right.
That they found that afternoon, you know, so at least I think for me personally, you know, I could sleep that night because I knew that the kids would be safe. You know, it wouldn't be the perfect place, but at least they would be safe. They would have a roof, they would have heatings, they would have everything. It was a cold day just like today.
So in hindsight, having gone through that awful experience, and I was talking to you at the time, and you know, you were so stressed and emotionally just torn by the whole thing. You know, that's without even the cost implications and, you know, being out of pocket, hiring all these people, because you've got anger and frustration mixed with, you know, a heart.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, is there anything that you think that you could have done to have avoided that situation on top of the standard take ID, terms and conditions, ask some questions?
Say it's quite difficult to...
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't know every single, you know, circumstances of everybody. So to prevent it happening, does it happen a lot? Not really. But, you know, sometime when you hit the jackpot, that's the time when you... Yeah,
and I think, you know, this will most of the time happen when you're placing council tenants, because, you know, there's always a backstory there. You know, they're in between properties, or maybe, you know, their place is, you know, been damaged, or they've had floods, and, you know, or they just like where they are and they don't.
Exactly. Yep.
So, you know, the chances of this happening is more likely with council tenants, but then the flip side to it is that a lot of those bookings can be the best paid bookings.
Exactly.
You know, we've had bookings from the council, you know, in some of the properties that near me, for silly, like triple the rates from Airbnb, because they need it now. They need it fast. So you're always kind of rolling the dice a little bit.
Yeah, and with Airbnbs as well, that, you know, if you're hoping for them to cover you, man, good luck. Because
that's another common misconception.
Because they say, oh, Airbnb's got insurance, right? No. You have to fight your corner to the end to get the insurance back. So there's one of the cases still outstanding with us. It's been going on since July. Still haven't got the money back.
Yeah. And with booking.com, it's even worse, right?
There's
almost no chance.
But that night, I mean, it was so disturbing, the fact that, you know, like for me personally, because when I see the kids, it's heartbroken. You know, these kids are the same age as my daughter. Came back, didn't have a clue. You know, they didn't have a single clue that they're gonna be going out on somewhere else again. And when they moved, it was so ridiculous, because the person left the eldest daughter by herself, and he just said to us, "You guys, you okay? Let's go. You can go." And said, "How could I go? Like, how could I leave that girl behind in the dark by herself with her belongings, because he knew that he's gonna come back, but he didn't know how long. And I stood with her for an hour, outside in the cold, because I asked her, "Did you want to come into the house? It's warmer. I'll keep the door open. Every lights are on. We go into a different room." No, she's been told to stay outside, so she stayed outside.
It's the kind of stuff that you hear about and read about in the news. And this stuff's so common. There's so much crazy stuff happening now.
Yep.
Because so many people just up against it.
Yep. So it's a pretty sad thing, and I think the hardest thing was that when next door neighbor came out with their young children as well, and they were just about going somewhere else. They looked really happy, and I just so happened to glance back at this girl's face who was waiting outside. Oh my God, Alexis! I was torn to pieces. You could see the gap in the society was just so unfair. So.
Yeah.
But again, you can't save everyone.
And this is the kind of stuff, I mean, for anyone who's getting into this business, and to have, if they're part of our community and this was to come up and they're able to come into the community and, be able to come to you and get advice on what to do.
Yep.
I mean, that's just absolutely invaluable, because to have no idea and just be sitting there thinking, shit, now instead of me reading about this stuff, is actually happening to me.
Yeah.
And every day you're paying.
Yep.
That's a scary place to be.
And I think, for a lot of people tend to say that, you run a business, you shouldn't have emotions attached to it. But I didn't think it was that way, because you should have some kind of compassion, have, for other people.
Yeah. Well, I think like you said, the fact that there was the 4 young kids, if it was a 25-year-old couple, just partying and, it's a completely different ballgame.
It's a different case, yeah.
Then you just throw them out the window.
Yep.
But 4 young kids.
Yeah. So, but at least at night I could definitely sleep, knowing that they've been sheltered.
Yeah.
Also, like we call, I don't know, different organization as well, like shelter. In the end, just no one could help immediately.
Yeah. And that's the realities, the real life, not what you see people just casually throwing out on Facebook.
But I think the frustrating thing is that, if the people are, the unfortunates, if they are trying to help themselves, I think it's okay. But if they're playing the system and then they're not even trying to help themselves, that's the bit that really got to me.
Yeah.
And just hiding behind the kids, that, my goodness.
Using kids as a tool, as a chess piece.
Yep. So,
it's all too common. Well, look, mate, it's a very powerful, valuable story as well, because everybody needs to know this stuff and know how to deal with it. And like I said at the beginning, this is the kind of stuff that isn't really touched on because it's all just a little bit too scary, and it paints a potentially slightly negative picture of the industry, which might stop people from wanting to get involved. But I would just say, guys, just to caveat, the whole of this is like Pooh said, incredibly rare. I think it's only happened twice or something with our business. Very rare that you see it, especially the situation that Pooh's explaining, having the kids in there and playing the game and all the rest of it. So don't let it put you off. There are things and ways and due diligence that we can do to massively help to minimize this. And we can speak about that in some other podcasts. But also what we'll do in the community over in the Blueprint coaching community that we've got on Facebook, we'll do some more information about this topic. We'll do a bit of a Q&A, give you the knowledge and the tools to make sure that you're well armed and equipped if this was ever to come up in your business, because it's a pretty scary place to be. Anything else to add, Pooh?
No, not for the moment. Yep.
Oh, I really appreciate you sharing the details.
Sorry, it's a bit grim.
No, it's the reality, right? Yeah. We've got to talk about this stuff, and that's our promise to the audience is to keep it real. So really, really appreciate you filling us all in on that traumatic experience. So, guys, listen. Thanks so much for listening and watching at home. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to drop us a follow if you're enjoying the content, and if you can, please leave us a review. It helps us so much. Getting visibility on the platforms. Don't forget, head into the show notes below this episode. You'll find the link to our community, completely free. Tons of value, tons of stuff going on in there. Like I said, we'll do a Q&A with Pooh as well If you've got any questions around this specific subject, that's where you're going to find the answers. So head into the show notes, click the link, head over and join the community and get educated on all of the best resources around building your Airbnb business. Till next week, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you then on another episode of the Airbnb Blueprint podcast. Take care.